Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host, as always. Joining me tonight is my good friend, Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Doing well. I get half credit for knowing who Madison Beer was. I just don't know any of her songs.
I texted my wife and sister-in-law and said, "Who's this?" And then I learned a little bit about her. And then our Discord was all ablaze about Madison Beer yesterday. Shout out to Jay Herbo. I went from not knowing who Madison Beer was to knowing her entire backstory thanks to Jay Herbo. So shout out Jay. I'm now very well versed. And funnily enough, we actually got some Madison Beer fan accounts that follow the podcast. So if you're a Madison Beer fan who is just discovering the Chargers, welcome to the podcast. We're the Guilty as Charged guys.
Yeah, how's it going? Yeah, honestly, the crossover, it clearly worked because my sister commented on one of our shorts, and of course it was the Madison Beer short. I'm like, wow, the crossover really worked. Apparently the world is coming together and uniting in a weird way. I know, like years and years ago, like Anne Hathaway wore like a Danny Woodhead jersey that one time, and now we get Madison Beer and the Chargers and Herbert doing something. I have no idea, but finally they keep bringing influencers over and Love Island people, and I'm like generally vaguely aware, but Madison Beer is at least a name I recognize. So how do you do, fellow kids?
How do you do, fellow kids is correct. If the rumors are true, she is easily the most famous Chargers fan at this point in time. I think that current title is probably like Mario Lopez, but so it's a kind of a low bar. But welcome to the Chargers fandom. Don't research 2006. Don't research 2007. It will just bring you pain. Just start with a clean slate.
1960 and 2024. You could just ignore those ones.
Yeah, just start with a clean slate. You can go back and watch some of the last year's games. Get a feel first for Justin Herbert, your new king. But you don't need to watch anything before that. Yeah,
Jaguars game, they won. I'll let you know that. They just turn the first half of that game on. Yeah, you don't need the rest of it. Yeah.
When it gets to 27-3, you can just turn the TV off. You're good.
Exactly. Yeah. Chargers won. Falcons won their Super Bowl. It's kind of crazy how that works.
Travis says he has no idea who it is. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't know who she was either. She is a singer. And again, if you're in the Discord, you learned all about her yesterday. So
that's why people are in the Discord, by the way. So thank you for signing up for that.
Yeah. People don't join the Discord for our information or our supporting our show. They get in there to hear about Jay Herbo's pop culture references and his ability to get some rumors sourced and things like that. So shout out Jay Herbo.
Yeah, did not think that today we'd be starting with Madison Beer discussions on the podcast. But here we are. It's the off season, and hey.
Yeah, it's August when Justin Herbert dating rumors are popping up. Feels like that's a yearly thing. Obviously, we're not here to talk about Madison Beer. We are here to do our Chargers film review from the Rams preseason game. We know it's been a few days, but this is the day that we get to podcast, so we'll have some takeaways from that. Have some of our latest news from the last couple of practices. Chargers practice yesterday and today. So we'll have some things to discuss there, in particular about the offensive line. But before we begin, I have to tell you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks. You Madison Beer fans, PrizePicks is the best way to consume daily fantasy sports. Right now, obviously, football season is just around the corner, but maybe you're into baseball season as well. Maybe you think Shohei Ohtani will hit a home run this week. Maybe you think Juan Soto will hit a home run this week or more than one hits. You can cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this baseball season when you and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this baseball season. So how do you do that? You download the app PrizePicks on whatever app store you use, and then insert the code GUILTY to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is the PrizePicks app. Code GUILTY to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, so like I said, we're going to kind of combine some late news with the offensive line as well as some film takeaways because it kind of all all work together. We'll start with some positive news, and that is that Mr. Mekhi Becton has returned to practice for the first time since July 29th. Today is August 19th, so it's been a minute. He did not participate in team drills, according to Chris Rim, but he was out there for individual. Daniel Popper tweeted a video of him, doing some position drills. And I understand that there is definitely some concerns going on about Mr. Mekhi Becton, but this is obviously a very positive sign for him and for the team. And again, I'm going to say, let's get those prayer circles going that Mr. Mekhi Becton can stay healthy for at least most of the season this year.
Oh, yeah. Most of the season, all of the season would be great. 2 whole years. They're under contract here. So hopefully it's a good and healthy couple of years with the Chargers. I love that, there's all these, it's been 3 weeks essentially. And Daniel Popper finally goes, okay, now you can start panicking about Mekhi Becton. And then the next day he returns to practice. We'll never know what the injury might have been. People have speculated, right knee issues, inflammation, chronic thing, whatever. But it's good to see him in any capacity take a step forward to returning in full. So obviously, like you said, not team drills. There wasn't like a set, by this Friday, he'll be in team drills and it's all going to be good and playing in full. But with Brazil, I can't believe it really is that close, 16 days until Brazil. It's nice that he is trending in the right direction, because if Becton missed another week, I'd probably pick the Chargers to go like 1-3 to start the year, because the way that this offensive line that we'll talk about, these guys have played in the backups, I don't know what to talk about in the season, but good things are happening.
Yeah, so we'll see how the rest of this goes. Obviously, this is the last week of quote unquote training camp, and then the Chargers will have some kind of modified practice schedule next week without a preseason game, and then the following week after that, they're ready for Brazil. I assume they'll travel, relatively early. So there's only a small amount of practices left for Mekhi Becton to get back up to speed, ready for week 1 if that's the case. Greg Roman says that he thinks he's going to be ready for week 1. He says that he's in great shape. We'll see about all of that. Not that I'm, speculating that he's going to miss the game or anything like that. But the Kansas City Chiefs employ Chris Jones, and you kind of need your guards healthy in that matchup. Jamari Sawyer, who we can talk about and we'll talk about here in a second, has, lost some weight and he looks good and looks like he's improved. But, in order to go through this opening slate against Chris Jones, against Zach Allen, against John Franklin Myers, you need Mekhi Becton out there and healthy. And hopefully this is a step in that direction.
Yeah, definitely.
So Mr. Jamari Sawyer, who is now essentially their swing everything. The Chargers went from feeling great about their depth with Trey Pipkins and Jamari and Andre James to Jamari is essentially going to be, if any injury happens outside of center, Jamari is the next man up. And that includes right tackle, which he has never played in the NFL before. He's gotten lots of snaps at left tackle, preseason snaps at left guard, regular season snaps at right guard, obviously, and preseason snaps, but he has never played right tackle. And essentially, he is their swing tackle option right now, according to Greg Roman, as well as being their swing guard option. So he played left tackle during that week after Rashawn Slater got injured, before they signed David Sharp, and he started the game against the Saints at left tackle as well. So it's not new for Jamari playing left tackle. He's played left tackle in the NFL previously. Right tackle he's never done before, but he went from being kind of important this season to being potentially one of the 10 most important Chargers players, because as much as we want Mekhi to stay healthy and we want Trey Pipkins to stay healthy, those are two individuals who have a history of injuries. And so we're at the point now where Jamari Sawyer is extremely important, and easily, I would say, the most important backup on the team.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought this whole time we were trending towards him being the swing interior guy who would fill in a tackle in a pinch. And I think that's maybe kind of still how it is, even though they said he's their preferred swing tackle. But they need to find themselves another option. And we'll discuss the options after Jamari Sawyer. But Jamari's a backup I feel good about. As far as backups go, someone who you feel comfortable in a pinch for a game, maybe 2 games, playing for the offensive line other than center, which we haven't seen, which of course is Andre James thing. Like, you feel pretty good about Jamari Sawyer in that backup role. So if it's swing, great. If it's guard, great. But I thought like he looked, I never really paid attention to how he looked physically until this past game. And I know it wasn't a ton of reps, but just seeing him, like, I kind of did see that he did look lighter. He did look a bit more. He didn't look like usual Jamari, which has always just been this freak Hulk of a human being. But he looked like spry. He was able to climb to the second level on one play. Like, he looked pretty good. So happy to see him do whatever it is this team needs. We'll talk about again. We'll get there. The way they're moving guys around, it just kind of screams to me that they still aren't so sure. But at least if Jamari has to play whatever he has to play, I do feel confident in him doing it.
Yeah, I think the last way has definitely showed up. I think the Chargers run so much counter pin pull concepts where you've got to have interior players who can get to the second level, and I think that was very much an issue for him last year. They also are kind of a sneaky outside zone team. They don't do it a ton, but they do run it quite frequently. I think part of that is who the offensive tackles last year were. We'll see how that changes with Trey Pipkins, but the lost weight has definitely showed up. I think my concern with him losing that weight is like his power was his calling card, and how does that impact things if he is a guard remains to be seen. But the lost weight definitely helps him play tackle, so I will acknowledge that. Despite the Chargers having said publicly several times previously that they think he is a guard first and tackle and a pinch guy, now I think his value is probably greater at tackle, and maybe that makes it a little bit easier to go out and find a potential guard replacement as opposed to a tackle replacement.
Yeah, and I know this is looking to the future. I would understand if he wants to go somewhere where he thinks he can start, but if offers aren't there, it'd be really nice to have Jamari Sawyer back with this group. If this is how they feel about him, they think he can play all 4 spots, and we think in a pinch he can play all 4 spots, we'd love to have him back.
Yeah. I think somebody like Jamari who can play all 4 spots, if he can play right tackle for real, then there's a lot of value in that, and he can have a really, really nice career, as an NFL player in that regard. So we'll see. Starting options for a guy like him can kind of be scarce from time to time, but if he's committed to just being, a swing offensive lineman, you can again just create a really nice life for yourself. There's multi-million-dollar players in the league who are, backup swing guys. So it's really possible. Last positive thing before we get to some concerns here. Joe Alt apparently looks awesome, which again is to be expected. Daniel Popper highlighting yesterday that just the run blocking has really taken a step forward. And I thought that was Joe Alt's like weakness from last season, where, as a pass protector, there's really like not many weaknesses. You can nitpick about certain times where guys will like beat him off the line or get into his chest. Again, you're talking about like very rare, like Daniil Hunter, or TJ Watt kind of players. But as a run blocker, the Chargers didn't ask him to do a ton. And part of that, I think, is just kind of him adjusting to the league, where now he's probably going to be the focal point of the run game. And it sounds like the Chargers are embracing that. And I'm excited to see what it looks like in the regular season, because he's, the extra weight for him, opposite of Jamari. I think it's going to show up in a big way.
Oh, it already has. Even on that one drive or any little bits we get to see of him playing, he's phenomenal. I'm not at this point. I'm not surprised that he looks good at left tackle. I understand that he did that in college, but flip right, he looks great. Flip left, he looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, we are talking generational in terms of no longer the prospect necessarily, but in terms of who he could be in the NFL, what he's been able to do.
Yeah,
we lose a left tackle and you get a left tackle who arguably could be even better is just kind of insane. The discussion is obviously about the right side, but he's looked phenomenal. He really has.
Yeah, I think, we've had a discussion previously before Rashawn got injured, obviously, that eventually Joe Alt is going to be the better player just because he's a physical freak who can do things that not many players in the NFL at his position can do. So hopefully we see that step in the right direction. I think I've kind of settled with the starters if Mekhi Becton is healthy, I think can be, around the middle of the pack kind of offensive line, maybe in like the, 13 to 18 range, in part because I'm just so comfortable projecting a big leap forward from Joe Alt. And I think The biggest question mark is obviously, can Mekhi Becton stay healthy? But with the way that this unit can potentially run block, and you can scheme up some pass protection help for Trey Pipkins on the opposite side, I think they can be about middle of the pack. If Mekhi goes down, then we're having a kind of a different kind of conversation. And I think we wanted to do kind of a resetting of expectations for the offense as a whole, in between the preseason game and the regular season. So we'll get to some of that. But when we are talking about our offensive line concerns here in a minute, I'm not talking about the starters, although I understand why certain people are definitely concerned about the starters. But we are definitely concerned about the players behind Andre James on the depth chart. And that's what I want to reiterate before we get to that, is that the big concern is the depth, not so much the starters at this point in time.
Yeah, I like you said, the expectations for what the line could be are reset at this point, and that's not necessarily like any of the five's fault. It's just what they are without Rashawn Slater, and if Mekhi Becton can stay healthy. But yes, it is now the depth behind them, which has me very nervous.
Yeah, definitely nervous there. Okay, let's get to the state of the backup union. Branson Taylor, who the Chargers drafted this year, it was acknowledged by Greg Roman today that left tackle is his natural position, despite spending the entire offseason working at guard exclusively. He played right guard in the Hall of Fame game, left guard against the Rams, and up until yesterday, he had not played tackle for the Chargers at any point of the offseason. I went back and read all of Daniel Popper's reporting. I went back and read Eric Smith's reporting. He had not played a single snap at tackle until yesterday. So it's just kind of another thing here, but he has 69 total reps in the preseason. He's allowed 2 pressures. He had a 0.9 pass blocking grade versus the Rams, which shockingly was not even the worst pass blocking grade against the Rams in this game among this unit. The lack of pressures is a good thing. The way that it looks is a concern for me. He has a 51.6 run blocking grade in the preseason. He's playing now left tackle and right tackle. Greg Roman says they want the flexibility for him to play multiple positions at this point in time. We'll get to some of the other guys who are kind of vying for the back end of the practice squad. But when Rashawn went down, we were like, okay, Branson Taylor is safe just by draft status. Now he had, in my opinion, a really rough showing against the Rams, and now he's not even playing guard anymore. Where do you end up with how the Chargers are managing him and the way that he's performed so far?
I'm a little curious if they feel like with Joe Alt, these are very vastly different players and prospects, but like, let's cross-train him here, because should we need him at a tackle or a spot he's more natural at that he played in college, he can kind of just snap back into that. And maybe that's why they went with some guard to start the year. I'm grasping at straws, by the way. I'm really trying. I'm trying to paint. I'm trying to say something a little bit different to see if maybe something sticks.
Yeah.
To me, what this signals, and it often signals with players like this, and it's been that case, Jim Harbaugh, Staley, Lynn, or otherwise, is that when you are not a starter and you don't necessarily have a specific set of worth at one spot that you're clearly great at, even as a backup, then you need to just play as many spots as you can, because we're kind of stuck with you. And so if you got to play, we're going to need you out there potentially at tackle, and we need to find some sort of way to get more value out of you and justify keeping you on the roster based purely on guard play that we've seen, and statistically or by grades, whichever metric you want to go at, or even, college prospect profile, because, he was in college a few months ago. He's not worth the roster spot, but he's going to be on the roster. As you said, like, he's probably safe given Rashawn Slater's injury, given, Trey Pipkins' injury history, given Mekhi Becton's injury history. He's making the roster. He's 98% safe, I think. So you got to find out some value for him. And I don't know if they feel so good about him at guard. Therefore, let's just see if we can see if there's more here, because we have to justify keeping him on the roster. And it's not necessarily because of play or statistics or film. It's because we drafted him and we're kind of stuck.
Yeah, being stuck, that feels accurate. I obviously, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know I was not a huge fan when I went back and watched his tape after the Chargers drafted him. I wanted the Chargers to draft any long-term interior guy, and they probably would say that they did that with drafting Branson Taylor. But watching the tape back, there were so many leverage issues. There were so many timing issues. He ran the wrong way a couple of times. He's trying to double team on like a down block with David Sharp, and there's just no movement at all. And I'm kind of feeling like they are trying to square peg this into a round hole by forcing him to play multiple spots and trying to figure out where he can best play, because it feels like they're panicking. It feels like they drafted a player who they thought could be a long-term guard, and it hasn't looked very good. And so now they're like, well, let's see if we can just get any value out of him. And I don't know, man. Like, if he makes the 53, that's fine, I guess. But this is your 8th offensive lineman. This is a guy who you are one injury away from him being the next man up, because Andre James can't play guard. That was very well established against the Saints.
That took one rep.
He's never played guard in his NFL career. So if Mekhi Becton misses time, Jamari's up, and then Branson Taylor is your next guy up after that. So I think that should be a rather scary thought for this team, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. But I was not super impressed with the Hall of Fame game, and then against the Rams, it was really, really bad. Like, several issues, just not inspiring at all to me. So this is like a long-term project kind of player. I'm having like very vivid Trey Pipkins rookie season flashbacks by watching him, and credit to Trey, it has worked out, and it might work out for Branson Taylor. But I hope we don't see Branson Taylor as early as we had to see Trey Pipkins, because that year it was like Sam Tebby got hurt and then Trent Scott got hurt, and it was like, well, here's Trey Pipkins, and it did not go well. So yeah, I'm of the mind that Branson Taylor should be your 9th guy and like redshirt the whole year, because I don't think he's ready to play in the NFL right now.
No, I completely agree. And just to like frame this and then the rest of the players we're going to discuss, I know it's the 8th and 9th offensive lineman, and I'm thank you for 300 of you being here for us to talk about this. I know it's not as exciting as saying Trey Harris was awesome, and he was. We'll talk about some positive stuff, I promise.
Yeah.
But these are real problems that we have to discuss, because these are potentially real situations. The Chargers this year, right now, their offensive line in the preseason has the worst pass blocking efficiency in the NFL. Now, I know people will say, well, it's just the preseason. I get that. But they're also playing, for the most part, backups in the preseason. And if you think it doesn't matter, you can go back to 2019, where the Chargers were also one of the worst in PBE in the preseason. And the names on that list were Forrest Lamp, Trey Pipkins, Dan Feeney, Scott Quessenberry, Trent Scott, Sam Tevy, Michael Schofield. You know what those players all did? They played that year in the regular season. You can see it and say, well, it's just Branson Taylor. It's just David Sharp, Carson Barnhart, Corey Stewart. These guys aren't going to play. Are you sure? Do you know which team you root for? Now, I get that the Chargers are a little better these days on the offensive line department than they were in Rivers' final year, but like this is where they're at. We are this close to, like we already said that initially, right? Rashawn Slater goes down. We're close to almost the exact same line as last year. Well, Slater went down. And so now we are closer. Now, one more injury away from one of the worst offensive lines in football. I don't think a veteran's going to come in here and be like, oh, hey, stabilize it. We're a top 10 unit. That's not happening. I highly doubt someone like that becomes available. But we need to look and identify these issues right now and discuss them. Hopefully the Chargers are too. So we don't go from, Jamari Salyer, I'm just making this up. Let's say it's a top 10 backup lineman in the league, to Branson Taylor, who's unplayable. There has to be something in the middle there. Because right now, as you mentioned, Branson, like this offensive, I watched 20 minutes of the film and I basically gave up. I stopped watching it. I hated it. It was a dreadful watching experience. And there almost wasn't a single player I even felt good watching after those 20 minutes of watching the film. It was dreadful.
Yeah, and we know that a lot of you guys are tired of hearing about this. Bob says, guys, you've beat the O-line to death all offseason. We know how you feel. Can we talk about something decent?
No.
We will talk about something better. But these guys are two of these guys are probably going to make the initial 53-man roster. And if they can't find other options, like Tyler mentioned, these guys are potentially playing meaningful snaps in the season. I've only, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to have watched like 2019 preseason tape. I wasn't doing it at that time.
Sure.
So really like meaningfully watching preseason snaps on tape, like all 22 has been since like 2021 for me. So that's 5 preseasons. The Rams tape was probably the worst offensive line performance in the preseason that I have studied. The running backs were hit behind the offensive line so many times. Looking at like statistically speaking, let me pull this up. So Rocket Sanders ends the game with 11 total yards. He had 18 yards after contact, according to PFF. So basically, he is only getting positive yards because of himself, because he is creating yards after contact. People are talking down on Kamani Vidal all weekend long. And I think like I've kind of settled in Rocket maybe being a better option. But Kamani is tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage every time he touches the football. Like, what is he supposed to do when the Chargers are running counter to the right side and he can't even, like, the offensive lineman polling can't even get to their assignment because the guys at the front are not holding the point of attack. Like, Kamani had zero room to work. Taylor Heineke, Trey Lance were pressured on every single snap. It felt like there are several screenshots that I can go find where the tackles and the guards are switching places and Andre James is like chilling doing his thing and the other two guys are like back to the opposite direction. It was a mess. And so I know several of you guys are like tired of hearing about this, and I know you guys want us to be positive more often, but this offensive line, this backup unit was atrocious against the Rams. And it is a major concern because one of them will make the roster. Potentially two of them might make the roster because the Chargers don't have any other choice. Like these are the guys who they have. And we are going to talk on Thursday about like other options, but what if they don't sign anybody? What if their thought process is, well, they're young guys, they'll get better throughout the season? Is that the craziest thing in the world for this team to think? I think so, but based on how they've operated, I would not be surprised if they look at two of these guys and think, yeah, they're rookies or second-year players. We can develop them. One of these players had a 0.0 pass blocking grade on Saturday. 0.0. I didn't even know that was possible. So, yeah, we're going to keep talking about it because it's a big concern.
And what's different here is for the offseason, we talked about like starting center, starting left guard, starting right guard, drafting these players, center of the future, all that sort of stuff. Yes, we're still talking about the offensive line, but there's 9 players who are going to make this roster. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of moving parts, especially when your left tackle is out for the season, your right guard hasn't practiced. So I know we've been talking about offensive line a lot, but we haven't been talking about Branson Taylor, David Sharp, Carson Barnhart, and Corey Stewart, which We're going to talk about here as well. It's just where we're at. And we have to talk about these things because I think our fans don't want to just be like, oh, everything's great. This is awesome. Oh, the offensive line is bad. Our fans want to, for the most part, like hear these things for better or worse, tell it to you straight. And this is where they're at. And, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to get to David Sharp and Carson Barnhart and Corey Stewart now?
Yeah, I think we can. People asking about coaching things. Like I wish we could sit here and find like the offensive lineman version of Nico Reed. Like it would be amazing if that were the case. Unfortunately, it just doesn't really seem like that's going to be happening. So David Sharp, who played his first football game and was not with any team in the preseason, I thought like as a run blocker showed some potentially interesting things.
Sure.
But he allowed 3 pressures. Pass blocking efficiency rating was 95.3. PFF did not agree about his run blocking grade. Greg Roman said today essentially that he's out of shape, which it makes sense. He has not been with the team all spring and summer. But I know that there's people out there who think like, oh, like he's not going to make the 53, this or that. I don't know, man. He's connected with the team in several instances. I would not be shocked if they decided to keep him initially and then hold him on the practice squad. I'm not against holding him on the practice squad. But it was a mixed bag for sure on Saturday.
Yeah, this is something, and I guess you can say that for all these players. I don't necessarily blame them for how they look. And David Sharp walking in and having to play as much as he did and not looking great. I don't know even what I expected. So there were some positive things there, I guess. But it looks like a player who was just available and didn't really play football the last couple of years. And he walked into a game and played Gift Smith and the Rams. And just in general, Gift Smith, those Rams defensive linemen kicked ass. Like they looked fantastic. They look kind of like how the Chargers defensive linemen have been looking. The way we talk about Caldwell and these guys, that's how the Rams guys looked. They absolutely kicked the shit out of the Chargers offensive linemen. But yeah, David Sharp, it wasn't great. It wasn't really a whole lot better than anybody else's performance, but there's a pass because he just got on the field.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe his second game is a little bit more positive for David Sharp. But he's got to go from like being potentially interesting to like having a good game for me to feel comfortable with him sticking around. So we'll see what happens. Carson Barnhart, who has been ahead of Branson Taylor, ahead of other guards all offseason long for whatever reason, is the aforementioned player who had a 0.0 pass blocking grade against the Rams. PFF gave him a 58.6 run blocking grade for this game. I think it should be much, much lower. He was a player who often lost at the point of attack quite frequently. I don't think this is an NFL player. I know there's Michigan ties, but the tape is rough. The tape is rough. I'm just going to leave it at that. Corey Stewart has flashed some interesting things to me in previous games. It did not go very well this game. He had allowed 4 pressures. So the other games he only allowed 2. And you could really see the lack of physicality from a run blocking perspective in this one. You mentioned Give Smith and the physicality. Like he had a tough time setting the edge this game. So he's not a run blocker, but I think as an athlete, as a pass protector, there are some interesting things here from like a practice squad perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been essentially the guy in the 4th offensive tackle role like all offseason long. He's pretty consistently ahead of Ryan Nelson. You know, right now it seems like him and David Sharp are potentially like vying for that 3rd spot. But it was a rough game for him as well against the Rams.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I think it's my least favorite of the few games that I've watched of his. But at least like throughout this offseason, throughout the preseason, he's flashed. He's doing UDFA stuff, typical UDFA stuff. Some good, some not so good. Learning moments, fine. Carson Barnhart,
it's bad. It's really bad.
It's been bad. It's been bad. Like we weren't huge fans of his as a prospect coming out of college, but okay, you know, he signed his UDFA, that's fine. Whereas, okay, let's say like Tremont Morris-Brash, who we will talk about, has made significant strides and is genuinely at least good to great in the preseason and deserving of a roster spot. Carson Barnhart has not gotten any better and frankly is arguably the worst player on the football field for the Chargers in the preseason. And it doesn't look pretty. Like that 0. People are asking, how do you get a 0? I don't know. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Alex Leatherwood had that last year once. And like that's
Let me go look.
And Barnhart might make the roster if Branson Taylor is a tackle to them now. We'll see. But I believe Alex Leatherwood had one game where he had a 0 pass blocking grade.
So he had a 7.7 one time. It was a game that he allowed 6 pressures against the Seahawks in that game.
Okay, so now imagine having a grade worse than that than Alex Leatherwood, and that's how it looked for Carson Barnhart, who isn't good in the run game either. Like just ass kicked all up and down the field, unfortunately.
I think like at the tail end of last year, they were working him at center. I think as the 3rd center, I could see the vision a little bit more where the physicality is a little less noticeable. But he's probably going to be on the practice squad all year long again. So it is what it is. For anybody wondering, like pass blocking efficiency rating, that is the combination of pressures allowed versus snaps played. So ideally for a player who is potentially going to make the practice squad in the preseason game, you want them to have like a really solid, at least like above 97 pass blocking efficiency rating. For comparison's sake, at this time last year, Foster Sorrell had a 98.4 pass blocking efficiency rating. So he's a guy who, like, I think earned a spot to be on the 53-man roster last year at the tail end of the 53. And obviously he played, significant snaps at certain points of the season for the Chargers previously. So anything below 97 is like you're struggling. You're having a tough time. And the Chargers, everybody on this except for Branson Taylor, who played 2 games, has been below 97. So it's tough sledding for this group.
Yeah. Yep. Not great.
Okay. Now we can move on. We're 36 minutes in. We've only talked about the offensive line. So apologies to Bob and anybody else that is offended by how negative that was. But at the end of the day, it's a concern. And if you're not concerned about it, I don't know what you were watching. Like, it was a rough game. So that being said, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about some more positive things. Our audio audience is going to take a quick break. However, our YouTube audience is going to continue right along after this. Okay. Trench heavy episode. The defense attack room is where we are going to start from a positive vibe standpoint. Jamari Caldwell, Naquan Jones, Justin Eboigbe in particular. Is Caldwell your most impressive of that group, or who do you want to start with there?
Even though I do like the way like Eboigbe flashing his 12 reps or whatever it was and Naquan Jones played, yes, Jamari Caldwell is my leader in this group just because it's now been 3 weeks of that's pretty good, that's pretty good, that's pretty good. It's effort, it's anchor, it's power, it's all the stuff. Like, it's exactly what Jesse Minter wants out of a defensive tackle, nose tackle type. Is he an elite pass rusher? No. But he could get there. But as a 3rd round pick, he's been awesome. Like, he's just fantastic. Every game he shows up, every game it is a domination of the player across from him. And he's not racking up stats necessarily, but he's holding up. I think at least three times this game, he was able to drop to one knee and hold at the point of attack. There's a huge human being, guys. There's a play where I think he like drops to one knee and then pops right back up in about 0.2 seconds and able to anchor down and finish the play. Just an unbelievable. We knew he was like a specimen of a human being, but seeing it in the context of a little bit of Minter magic, a little bit of Mike Elson in there, and putting that all together, and a little bit of Ben Herbert, I suppose, too. It's just a realization of what he could be. And I know he's not playing great players, but that Rams offensive line, if I'm not mistaken, is actually 1st in the league in pass blocking efficiency.
Yeah, they were playing like legitimately good players. Like,
yes, with a good like offensive line that the Rams have developed for years, or the backups at least. What did I miss?
They were playing Bo Limmer, who's probably going to start for them, and David Questenberry, who's been in the NFL for 10 years. Like, the Rams backup offensive line is good.
Yeah, he's so called. Everyone played well. Eboigbe played well. Jonesby played well. We can talk about them, but Jamari Caldwell just continues to be the best versions of what we hoped he could have been as a prospect.
Yeah, the power at the point of attack is advertised. There were multiple times on tape where he is either not moving or he is past the line of scrimmage. Like, he is setting the line of scrimmage, which is like, that's job description number 1 as a defensive tackle, is like, can you set the line of scrimmage? I tweeted out a couple of plays where he is, at the point of attack, holding it. There was a play at the goal line where it's really tough to like put on Twitter because you would have to like really like zoom in and things like that. But he takes on the double team, and then he kind of like swims over the guy on his right, and the entire time is keeping the other player with his left hand, and he's like right there helping stop the ball carrier with one arm, essentially, like holding this guy away and making a stop. Like, he's impressive, and this is without like a full NFL offseason. Defensive tackle traditionally is one of the positions where you need some time to like develop, and we've seen that with Justin Eboigbe, where his frame just is different. Jamari Caldwell has gone from playing a 4-eye like pseudo edge rusher role at Houston to switching to the nose. Like, a lot of guys in his position take time to develop, but not Jamari. I mean, like, we haven't seen him play starting snaps, but it's just been getting better and better every single week. His run stop percentage is 16%, which is the 7th highest of any defensive tackle in the preseason who's logged at least 10 run defense snaps. Like, he is consistently stopping the ball carrier at a level where, like, I liked him. You liked him more than I did, but I just didn't see him impacting things right away. And the Chargers are recognizing this. If you go back and watch the Hall of Fame game, he was in the third rotation. So obviously it was like Deshaun Hand, Otito Ogbonia, they were first, and then Naquan Jones and Justin Eboigbe were second. And then same thing for the Saints game this past weekend. Otito Ogbonia, Deshaun Hand were first, and then it was Caldwell and Justin Eboigbe second. So he's pushing Naquan Jones, who's playing well, out of the second rotation. And I think that's a big credit to how he's playing. It's a big credit to how he's practicing. He's also doing press conferences now, which, like, you don't just do press conferences, guys. Like, the coaching staff and the media have to, like, put you on that kind of level. So I'm really happy with where Jamari Caldwell is at. I think he's probably still in that fourth role. But that's better than what I thought he would be right out the gate. I thought he'd be kind of vying for the fifth spot, maybe the sixth spot in the rotation, depending on how, like, Naquan looked and things like that. But I think him being fourth is just really, really a positive sign for where he is at with his development. Pass rush is still kind of a work in progress, but as a run defender, he can come in and play as a rookie, and that's a great thing for the Chargers.
Yeah, it really is. We've been looking for, and people say it in the chat. They say it right on cue, Jamal Williams. Yes, that is the person. He was, I think, 340 something.
Yeah, Jamal's a different level of physicality, I think, but
it definitely. But anything like that for more than just 1 year, like Poona Ford was great. That was a 1 year and done as far as we can see so far. Seems like it'll be that way, and he's now on the Rams. But the fact that Caldwell, no matter what his impact is this year, I think it will be positive. They have him for at least 3 more years after this is just great. I'm so excited to see what he can do. We went into training camp, went into the preseason in particular, going, okay, like what's going on? Because it could have been the way of Kyle Kennard and how that's gone so far. Because the defensive line was mostly very silent. We didn't hear a lot about any of these guys, especially the rookies. Like, okay, what's it going to be? How's it going to look? Whereas Kyle Kennard has been either injured or just non-existent in most games or in training camp. Jamari Caldwell's every single day, every game of the preseason, he's shown up, looked great. So I think he's just an undeniable part of the defensive rotation this year. And also just makes me feel good about them. I know it's a preseason, but good about them identifying and developing defensive linemen in the draft, because Eboigbe last year was a big miss for them. Colson was more like an injury, appendicitis, all that sort of stuff. Eboigbe just did not work for him last year. And so you wonder, now taking Caldwell with your third round pick, how's that going to look? And I feel better about Ortiz, Minter, Elston doing the defensive line draft pick thing just because of how he's looked so far.
Yeah, I was just looking at his mock draftable comparison, and his number one physical comparison is Jonathan Hankins, who's been in the league for like
forever,
a decade. I think he's still on the Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken. But just like a guy who will just be in the league for a long time, because run defense is super important, especially now that the league is kind of getting back to, run heavy offenses and things like that. So just being able to like have that long-term, guy in the room is something we were really clamoring for in the offseason. We kind of talked about more of like a pass rusher type, but the way that I have kind of learned about Jesse Minter and this group is they really want to start things in the middle with just having like big body run defending types. And they've said it time and time again, the run wall is what they are talking about. And Jamari Caldwell, I think, is just going to be a really key piece to doing that. And any pass rush he has will be a bonus. And I think, if he can give you, 10 pressures this year, and next year, maybe that jumps up to like 20, I think that's great. So it's just a really, really positive sign. And like you mentioned, Eboigbe's been a bit of a work in progress. So I was just kind of curious about like, okay, early on in training camp, Jamari's like, working with the third team defense and like rotating in with the third team defense. And I'm like, man, are we really going to have like another redshirt season again? But he's just gotten better and better and better all summer long. And so him being the fourth guy, I think he's earned that right. And I'm excited to see what it looks like in the regular season.
Yeah. So as far as Hankins goes, he's only had one season of over 25 pressures, but I'm about to sneeze. Never mind. Continue.
One season over 25 pressures, but a lot of run stops and a lot of money earned and a long career. So
Yes.
if that's Caldwell, then great.
Yeah, one season over 25 pressures, but he's been in the league since 2013. Over 6,000 snaps that'd be a pretty good turnout for Jamari Caldwell.
Yeah, 2013. I was a freshman in college. I have since gotten married, served an LDS church mission for 2 years, bought a house, moved states, done a master's degree. So shout out Jonathan Hankins, man. Good career for him.
Yes, sir.
I mentioned Justin Eboigbe. I think we are really starting to see some flashes there, which is great. Again, I don't know how much of a leap we expected this year, but there was some spring hype around him, and Jesse Minter said that he gained 20 pounds and like all this stuff, like he looked like he was ready to go. But it's been kind of up and down. But this past Sunday against the Rams, I think was firmly his best preseason game. I think you're really starting to notice that weight being able to hold up on double teams a little bit more. I still think it's a bit of a concern, but where he's been excelling is beating people off the line and the hand usage. He uses a swipe quite often. And he made the Rams backup center. I think it wasn't Bo Limmer, was the next one after that. But he would be in the B gap and swipe past the center on a zone look, get into the opposite A gap. And, we need to work a little bit on flattening and making the play, but disrupting the play is still as good for him. And so I think like you're really starting to see some flashes now, and we'll see how much that turns into regular season playing time. But I will take it, man. Any positive leap forward for Justin Eboigbe this year is absolutely worthwhile. And again, if he can become something next year, then him and Caldwell, I think you feel a lot better about like the long-term health of the defensive tackle room.
Yeah, great call there. Eboigbe, statistically, like looking over the game numbers and even the grade, it's like, I see 0 pressures. I see 1 missed tackle and a stop. But then you watch the film and go, there's 92, there's 92, there's 92. Like you saw him all over the place, disrupting, like you said. And that's good. Caldwell, I think, like anchor, play strength, power, hold of the line. Yes, he can be disruptive. But the way Eboigbe could be for this team is just different. That'd be a nice like 1-2 punch there. Because like Tart, he could be that. Hand, could be that. Jones, could be that. But we discussed a few months ago, like Eboigbe, in theory, could be their best pass rusher if he hits. And so anything like that, any kind of disruption like that would be wonderful.
Yeah. Pass rush, not seeing it as much. The development, I would say, against the run is very encouraging for him. But the pass rush, again, the Chargers I think I'm learning about their rush technique where the defensive tackles are like pickers a lot more often, and you're trying to steal a double team away from the edge rushers and things like that. But I pass rush was like the thing I liked about Eboigbe as a college prospect, and we're not really seeing that shine through.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens there. But again, if he can be active on game day this year and deserve it and play well, then I think we're headed in the right direction. And again, defensive tackle can be kind of a long developing position here. So next up, Naquan Jones. I think again, he's been kind of pushed behind Jamari Caldwell, but at the same time, I think in each of the 3 games, he has had some really good moments. Both as a run defender, as a pass rusher. He has this like innate ability to be the biggest player on the front and just get skinny and just squeeze through between the offensive tackles from time to time. He's got a really explosive first step. I'm pretty happy with where this defensive tackle room is as a whole. Naquan Jones being a bit of a surprise. He was somebody we kind of potentially put on like the cutting block at the start of this offseason. But he's another one who flashed some good things, played well all the way through the 4th quarter. So shout out Naquan Jones as well.
Yeah, he looks good too. I put him in the thumbnail on accident, but I still thought he was worth discussing as well. I think Caldwell has been playing better and should play ahead of him. But if they keep these 6 guys and Scott Matlock, then I feel good about Naquan Jones as their 5th or 6th option.
Yeah. So we've gone full tilt here. We went from offensive line discussion to defensive tackle discussion.
Yes.
I'm just really happy with where this room is at. A lot of concerns, rightfully so, I think, about You're losing Puna Ford. The Chargers didn't really invest like premium resources there. But Deshaun Hand has looked good. Jamari Caldwell has looked good. Otito Ogbonia has looked good. So this room is quietly, I think, going to be a strength for this team this year.
Yeah, I don't know what the ceiling of the group is, and that's maybe always kind of been the concern, but
right,
they've clicked and looked good. So I feel good about them heading into the year.
Yeah, I agree there. Okay, the other player we definitely have to talk about, and you and I have messaged back and forth about this. We've kind of acknowledged it on the show. What did you make of the way that Tremont Morris-Brash, played on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, he played great. It's now a few games, but whether it is specifically just like setting the edge or even having to work outside because the quarterback is trying to do something and he's physical against a blocker out there, whatever it is, like it's really the physicality that's really surprising me in the run game in whatever he does.
Yeah,
Tremont Morris-Brash is just, it's kind of a surprise. He really has taken a tremendous step forward since what I saw of him as a UDFA last year. Really in all regards, but I think just the play strength that he has, it looks like the way the Chargers have wanted their edge rushers to play. I'm not saying it's these players, but it's like how Tuli plays. It's like how Mac plays, just the physicality, just the tenacity, that sort of thing. Great there. And I really don't know what their decision is going to be. I think it truly does come down to this final game with him and Caleb Murphy. Now, Caleb Murphy got the mic'd up. It feels like the media darling, right? And
he's very popular for sure.
Very popular. And I think, 2 weeks ago, I said like Caleb Murphy's locked in his spot. And that's probably still true. But Morris-Brash, I mean, he leads Murphy in pressures, pass rush productivity, pass rush win rate. He's a higher run defense grade, almost an identical run stop rate. He's played special team snaps. He's made plays on special teams. I just think that while Caleb Murphy is the player everyone's talking about, and he's a media darling, and Murphy's earned every right to be talked about the way he has, you turn on the film and go, I think Morris-Brash is as good, if not arguably better, at least in terms of pure edge rusher play.
Yeah, I think he's more consistent, I would say. I think Caleb Murphy, his splash plays are a little bit more frequent, but I think Morris-Brash is more consistent. Like if you go on my Twitter profile and you go through the clips that I'm tweeting out about Jamari and Justin Eboigbe, you'll see Morris-Brash right in there too, just having a really nice rep setting the edge like Tyler is mentioning here. So the pass rush production increase from last preseason to this preseason is fantastic. That alone is like, okay, this is a guy who's kind of figuring out. And last year we were kind of like waiting to see, he was a practice darling early on in training camp. Everybody was talking about him. And then the preseason games, it didn't really kind of match up. So last preseason, he had 4 total pressures in 3 games. Pass rush win rate was 9%. This year, through 3 games, he has 11 pressures, and the pass rush win rate is 13%. And you feel that on tape. He's winning in different ways. He's more physical. And then you also add in the run defense. Like he has taken a pretty big leap forward for an undrafted free agent. You don't usually see an undrafted free agent edge rusher take this big of a leap right away. You kind of have to figure it out. Maybe you get to year 3 and then you maybe see some flashes here, but he's playing incredibly well, man. And the splash plays on special teams haven't been happening, but you mentioned that he's playing it a lot there. So I'm just very happy with him. I think like worst case scenario is that he should be absolutely back on the practice squad again, futures contract next year. And then maybe things just kind of pop next year overall. So the run defense is just so solid to me. Like every time I'm watching him, I'm messaging you like, dude, he's like a good run defender, And again, David Quessenberry, last week was Dylan Radins. Like these guys are guys who have played a lot in the NFL. So this is not just like he's going against Corey Stewart and David Sharp. He's doing it against good veteran players. So I'm very happy with where he's at. Even if he doesn't make the 53, I think he deserves to be praised.
Yeah, no, definitely good for him for all the progress that he's made. He's earned the right. If not the Chargers roster, then someone may poach him potentially. I don't know where he is at in terms of like the NFL in his rankings this preseason, but by pure like raw stats, I'm sure he's first. Or a lot of Chargers players are first or second because they've played more games. But I'm sure teams are paying attention to him. I think Caleb Murphy is definitely more like you said, the splash play, pass rusher kind of guy. And I think they need that with Dupree, with Mack, with Thule, with Kennard not clicking. I think Murphy's the guy as a better rusher that you might want. Although, again, as I said, the per play stats technically say Morris-Brash is better. But I do feel that Murphy's the better overall pass rusher. But yeah, we'll see. I think this next game decides it. If Morris-Brash just goes, here's 5 pressures and a sack, I think they just got to go with him.
Yeah, there are guys who are like ahead of him in terms of win rate, and obviously, like some of the guys who are playing in the preseason are like highly drafted players. You know, like Mike Green is pass rusher rate of 30%, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Austin Booker, you know, Princely, Iman Yellen, Jonah Ellis, these are guys, James Pierce, who are ahead of him.
Yeah,
you know, they're guys who have been like draftable players, but David Ojabo has a 15.9 win percentage. Chris Braswell for the Buccaneers, 15.2. Jack Sawyer, 14.7. Azeez Ojulari, 13.7. So he's in that kind of range of guys who are, you know, other highly draftable players. So he's not that far behind, you know, a good group of players there. So again, I think if he can kind of have another offseason with this team, you could really have a potential, you know, hidden gem here going forward in year 3. So
yeah,
big shout out to Tremon Morris-Brash. The film is great. The numbers are really, really good. You can tell he's put in a lot of work. You know, he's not winning as often with the spin move, which is like how he won last year. It was like the only thing he could do. So you could tell that he's taken a nice step forward.
Yeah, he has.
All right. The last player I want to bring up just quickly, RJ Mickens has continually impressed me as well. I think he's somebody who has been very, very consistent in the right positions, saving touchdowns on certain times, playing with the physical edge. Again, I wish he could just like catch the football once or twice. But he's reading things out so well. This is like, I've seen some debate online about like, oh, is he going to make the 53? To me, it's a no-brainer. Like he should absolutely make the 53. He's earned that right. I think he's been as expected for me as a tackler. Like he's just so consistently in the right position, wraps up really well. He's not afraid to get into scrum. So I really, really like RJ Mickens. He's super smart. I think you're onto something with RJ Mickens and getting him into this room, learning from all of these guys. I think he's on a very, very positive trajectory.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. He was if you did not bring him up and you asked me to bring up somebody, it would have been RJ Mickens. He is he leads 3 games played, but he leads the NFL in preseason tackles with 15, leads the NFL in passes broken up, which should be interceptions, but currently it's passes broken up. Top 3 enforcing completion rate. He's, you know, I can read what this name is, but this individual brings up like Alohi Gilman. He's, as a day 3 pick, so much further along than Gilman was. This is a player, as soon as they announced that they drafted him, you and Alex Katz and I think Insdorf as well went, oh, great. I know that player. He's a good prospect. I can't believe he was still available. And it just feels like that. It really just feels like, I know there aren't really a ton of true draft steals. It really just kind of feels like the Chargers got one here and they got great value for him. And on the field, he just looks tremendous. You posted the clip of him being physical. He's always in the right spot. He's saving touchdowns. He's smart. You don't lead in passes broken up. Yes, it's not an interception, but you don't get there without knowing like that you need to be there. He's just always around the football. And I think he's like, I'm glad that we could sit here and go like, who was the best, you know, draft pick rookie player in the preseason so far? And it has to be a legitimate like 4-person discussion. I feel like, if someone said RJ Mickens is the best rookie this preseason, I'd buy that.
Yeah, I think best defender is in the conversation as well. So again, the Chargers not playing like a lot of starters and stuff like that, but you've got 4 guys in this rookie class who have been consistently making impacts in the games. We have not seen Omar Hampton. I think we all feel really good about him. Arande Gadsden has gotten like 2 or 3 targets in the preseason game, but he's lighting it up at practice with Justin Herbert. Right. So that's another one. This rookie class just I wasn't quite sure if it would be better than last year's class, but we're getting there, man. We're getting there. Obviously, Joe all changes that math, and so does Ladd quite a bit. But in terms of overall impact players, man, like this group is trending to be pretty good.
Yeah, obviously it's difficult to be the same kind of prospect that was the prospects when you're picking 5th in the draft, but it's nice to see that Joe Ortiz, like a Tom Telesco, doesn't have to pick early to find these good players. You can pick, 17 spots later, or whatever it was, and still find players that, as far as we can tell, are worth every bit that they were drafted.
Yeah. See, we got to positive stuff. Obviously, we had to hit the offensive line thing, but we got to some positive things. And
I think it was literally half an hour of offensive line, half an hour of positivity.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. So big shout out to Jamari, Tremon Morris-Brash, RJ Mickens. These guys are playing very, very well. Tyler, any final thoughts about as you sneeze again? Bless you. We'll get Tyler any final thoughts before we move on here tonight from your film watch or from practice or anything like that.
Any final thoughts? I want to give a little bit more credit to Trey Lance when the numbers come out where it's like he has a 13% chance of completing those 2 throws. He does.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive, truly.
The 2 sideline throws were very impressive, but the one to Keandre Lambert-Smith, like he is releasing the football like one hitch after he gets to his drop, and Keandre Lambert-Smith was at the 35-yard line and catches it at the 7-yard line because Trey is just like instantly like, yep, I'm going here. Mm-hmm. And the ball location is insane. Like there were people on the Rams fans like found a bunch of our shorts for whatever reason. Yeah. They were like, this should have been incomplete. And I'm like, but it wasn't. Like he got his shin down. But just the location from Trey Lance, man, it's like just the one spot where Keandre is going to catch this or no one's going to catch this. Like that is high level stuff. And like there are people out there who think like, oh, like this is a guy who could replace Justin Herbert one day. That's obviously not happening. But if he continues to improve, who knows how long he'll be with the Chargers, but he's just made some real strides, man. Like as a processor, decision maker. I've just been so impressed with over like everything because we watched film of him against the Chargers last year and it was really bad. It was not good quarterback tape. So the leap he has made from that game to now is just fantastic. And Thomas Martinez points out, that draft status lasts forever. And we are in a world where Daniel Jones signed like a $50 million contract with the Colts. And he didn't net the Vikings a comp pick because they spent a fortune in free agency. But yeah, man, like I think there is a world where somebody goes, do I want to start Jake Haener or do I want to pay Trey Lance? Like it's a real thing. Like I don't know if that's going to happen. But Trey is on a really positive trajectory as well.
Yeah, I thought of that exact same team. I mean, at this point, there are always teams that will go for someone like a Trey Lance. Like you said, the draft pedigree. I'm sure there are connections now sprinkled throughout the league where they might want one more shot at this Trey Lance thing because he does look better. Like he genuinely does look better. Heaven forbid he starts one game for the Chargers this year. But if he does and he plays well or well enough, I think that'll be make things interesting.
Yeah, and there's a lot of media people out there who are like watching and hyping him up, and that stuff matters for contracts, man. It does. And Jim Harbaugh is getting a reputation of kind of a reclamation project guy, and that will matter for next year's contract. We'll see what happens. I would selfishly like to see another preseason where I can watch like good quarterback play next year. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there at that time.
Yeah, we'll turn around Zach Wilson's career next.
Hey man, if Jim Harbaugh has earned that right for reclamation projects. I don't think he's quite a fit for Greg Roman's offense, but is what it is. Okay, we got a couple of super chats in here from Dark Samus right at the buzzer. He says that CB is not a premium position. You can find good ones on day 2 and 3. Pass rushers and OTs are. Gotta snatch the likes of Mike Green. Shoulda traded down.
All right, sure. I'll take the Mike Green part of this. There's no way the Chargers were ever taking a chance on Mike Green as early as he went, and probably not at all. He didn't fall because teams messed up the film evaluation of Mike Green. That is not why he fell. To my understanding, it wasn't an injury or anything like that either. It was purely a couple of incidents that made him fall. And so if the Chargers go, darn, Mike Green has, 60 pressures this rookie year, I don't think they're going to be like, oh, we should revisit our process. He had a lot of stuff going on. As far as corner not being a premium position, you can find good ones on day 2 and 3. I mean, who are the all pros this year? Like Surtain, Stingley, McDuffie. I'm sure like Gonzalez was pretty, close to being an all pro or Pro Bowl player. These are players you do find in the first round. Not that you can't find ones on day 2 and 3, right? But you're not as likely, I don't think, to get like that kind of player. Ultimately, these guys with the elite traits that can run with the receivers are the guys that become the best. JC Horn, I mean, all these guys are first round guys.
Yeah, I think you can find with the way that like Jesse Minter coaches, for example, I don't think you need like a high end corner because you can have so much like protection in for how you're calling things. So you can take 5th round picks and turn them into quality starters. You can take a Christian Fulton and turn him into a quality starter. I think it's easier to find a quality starter at corner on day 2 or 3 than it is pass rusher and offensive tackle. I think that part is true. Yeah. But you look at the highest paid corners in the league. You're talking about Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley Jr., J.C. Horn, Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Surtain, A.J. Terrell, Denzel Ward, Marlon Humphrey, Marshawn Lattimore, Trayvon Diggs, Tyson Campbell, L'Jarius Sneed, Jalen Johnson, Charvarius Ward, Byron Murphy, Paulson Adebo. Those are all guys who were picked in the first 3 rounds, and the bulk of them are first-round picks. Like, literally, you have to get to Trayvon Diggs to get a 2nd-round pick, and I named like 8 guys before him. So if you want a true elite player at corner, you have to take one early. That part is like objectively true. And to me, that is like the definition of a premium position. It's like if you take one later, sure, you can find a good player. But if you want an elite player, you got to go first round, high day 2. And that's still the case.
Yep.
Regarding Mike Green, like, yeah, that just was never happening. So he looks like a freak. He was a freak. Again, I've been watching draft prospects for like 6 years at this point. One of the best pass rush evaluations I've ever given a player. But then I heard about all the stuff. So yeah.
Yep.
He came back with another one, says elite OTs and edges never leave the top 15, rarely. And elite corners never leave the top 15 either. So I understand what you're saying. I do think you build through the trenches first, but elite corners are still very, very valuable in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree that a lot of offensive tackles don't often leave that top 15. It really just feels like these guys are really bunched in early. Whereas even like the previous year, you could find I don't know why, but Jared Verse outside of the top 15. So yeah, spoiler, great players at important positions usually don't go out of the top 15. Or unless it's Christian Gonzalez. I still have no idea why that was the case.
Dude, the Commanders, man, they took what's that super skinny guy? Yeah, Forbes instead of Christian Gonzalez.
I liked Forbes, but give me a break.
Yeah, it's bad. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us tonight. Appreciate you for tuning in. I know that the first half is probably not for everybody, but it had to be said. And it's hopefully the second half is for everybody. We'll be back here on Thursday highlighting some options for the Chargers where they can go find some potential replacements, find some value. Maybe they'll find this year's Elijah Molden. You never know. We'll see what happens there. As always, make sure to leave a rating, review, comment, all that good stuff. Does really help continue to grow the show. And we really appreciate all of the positive, and sometimes we appreciate the negative feedback as well. All right, guys, that's been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.